This new online poll that I conducted yesterday, this is something that Bernie should pay attention to, because if he was thinking about picking Elizabeth Warren as his VP after everything that's transpired, he might want to reconsider. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikaz Sukas. And of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. So after Handshake Gate, if you will, and everything that came along with it, there has obviously been a push by some people at the top to ask Bernie Sanders to reconcile with Elizabeth Warren. Now, oftentimes with that reconciliation, there are conditions, because people who are not attached to the success of Elizabeth Warren in any capacity whatsoever, they've all seemed to figure out pretty early on, she's not a progressive. There's nothing for the movement, not people's personal careers, but the movement to gain from it. And maybe at one point, there might have been a question mark, like not from me, but from others. There might have been a question mark as to whether or not Elizabeth Warren would hand over her delegates to Bernie Sanders at the Democratic National Convention, or her super delegates to Bernie Sanders at the Democratic National Convention. And at some point, maybe if she was actually competition for Bernie, that there could be a compromise in that regard. There was maybe that question. However, I think it's pretty clear at this point, that compromise, at the bare minimum, isn't guaranteed. And if you're looking at reality, it's not happening. So I thought, you know what? I'm a strategist at heart, right? At the end of the day, and I will even plead guilty. Sometimes I think about strategy way too often, and I'd be willing to do the strategic move if it means we can get this movement on and popping, right? But I'm a strategist through and through, which means I don't ignore I do cost benefit analysis, and I don't ignore costs simply because a benefit is good. And that's really what it comes down to when you're having the question of to whether or not you want Elizabeth Warren, or you're okay with Elizabeth Warren as vice president. However, when I conducted this poll, honestly, I did not get the results I was expecting. I did not. I thought it was going to be roughly 85 to 90% of the people would say yes. That's not what happened. So we're going to look at this poll, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to go over some of people's concerns, and we're going to talk about them because I think that everybody's concerns were valid one way or another. And first and foremost, in the comment section, if we're live streaming right now, and if you're in the comment section after, don't vote shame people. I'm not even joking. Like, that's the quickest way to get your comment deleted. And y'all know I really don't care. Don't engage in sexism. Don't engage in racism, and don't vote shame. Those are like my three biggest concerns when it comes to my comment section. And because it's up to these politicians, whether it's Bernie, Tulsi, or anybody, they have to earn the vote. We can't do that for them. And that's period, point blank. So here is a poll. So this poll says, this is the question of the century. And I mean that literally, because this election is probably the most important election of our lifetime. If Bernie Sanders picks Elizabeth Warren as VP, will you still vote for him? So there's 3,827 people that cast votes in this poll. For those of you who are curious, my base on Twitter is made up of a huge combination of obviously Tulsi, also Bernie, also Yang, also Trump. And people who are just disenchanted with the political process in general, which you can't discount because that's a vote that you could potentially earn. So in other words, I would say probably have one of the most diverse followings for the amount of people that I have on Twitter. That's just kind of how my following has always been, because we don't vote shame. We don't shame people for who they vote. We try to win people over, because you never know who you could win over. Nini B. I hope you keep streaming this often after this too. I'm actually going to be streaming a little bit after this, yes. I will be streaming a little bit more. But I'm streaming more often in general now, thanks to my mama helping me out and helping me upgrade my studio and making the process go so much faster and so much smoother. So, look, people, that shit says only 58% of the people who saw this poll would vote for Bernie if he picked Warren as VP. 41% of people who saw this poll would not pick Bernie as president, even if he won the Democratic nomination, people. This is the general election we're talking about. 41%. Some people might be cheering, right? Oh, yeah, 60%, we won. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And I'm going to tell you why. But Glory Jones, thanks for the super chat. Glad you're covering this. And 3-time NBA. Oh, it's Wade County's birthday today? Shout out to Dwayne Wade, a real one. For those of you who don't know, if you don't follow Dwayne Wade, go follow him, especially if you're part of the LGBTQ community or if you're in LGBTQ activism. When his son came out to him and he wanted to go to one of the festivals out here in Miami, Dwayne Wade actually, for the first time, not because he never wanted to before, but just because his son finally came out to him, went out with them and supported him and was like basically because his other son is probably going to go to the NBA. And he was just like, it's my job to support my son, not just my basketball playing son or my daughter. It's like, I need them to be the best version of themselves. And I'm going to support that every step of the way. And I'm just here listening and learning and growing. And like, he talked about how much his son, who came out to him at such a young age, was his hero. So Dwayne Wade is a great, great, great guy in all seriousness. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this poll is very, very important. But Chris, did you see Meyer on Rogan says he's progressive? I'm just going to look at you like this. We're just going to keep on going. I appreciate it. I did not see Meyer on Rogan. I thought Bill Meyer had disappeared. Damn it, Joe. Why you bring him on? Why? I wish you didn't bring him on. Why you give him attention for? Anyway, when you have 60% of voters, these are some if it's a problem if only all Bernie supporters hit 60% or hit yes for the 58.6%, because okay, the Bernie supporters are going to vote for Bernie anyway. You don't need them. You need at least 30. You need 30 to 35%, or excuse me, you need almost 90% of that 40% to vote for Bernie if you want to beat Donald Trump in the general election. That's a fact. Okay? 4,000 people is not a small sample size. And anybody who tries to trivialize this just because it's a Twitter poll, well, one, you don't follow my Twitter. My Twitter be lit. We got everybody be in the comment sections and the threads, okay? And a lot of my Twitter support is Tulsi supporters. A lot of them are Yang supporters. You need Yang supporters and you need Tulsi supporters in the general election to win. And both Tulsi and Yang, much like Bernie in 2016, brought in new voters. But the problem is they have no loyalty to Bernie whatsoever. Bernie has to win them over. And they're saying that picking Elizabeth Warren as VP, 40% of the people who took this poll, 41%, they're saying that's the line. That there is the line. So let's look at some of the reasons as to why people said one way or the other why they're supporting him. So Roderick said that he would vote for him because he is vastly better than Trump, which is true, but it would definitely be a negative. I had to think about it. I shouldn't have to think about it. It would probably be, he goes on to say, the only way he'd lose because as much as we don't like Warren, just think of how much the Republicans and independents don't like her. She adds nothing new to the ticket. It might just take enough away to lose. Roderick, both great points. The question that I would pose to everybody while we're going through the other questions, because Roderick, once again, gave great answers on both sides. He said, I'd vote for him because he's vastly better than Trump. So the question is it Bernie versus Trump? We know he's vastly better than Trump. That's not the question, though. Is it Bernie versus Trump? Or is it Team Bernie versus Team Trump? And the history of both. It isn't as simple are binary as Bernie versus Trump, right? So that's the question I would like y'all to think about while we're going through the rest of it. Mberg33, did you see Amber Tamlin's Me Too weaponization? I have not, but I saw a lot of people trying to weaponize Me Too against Bernie, and it was utterly disgusting. And Katie Halper was just going to town on people over that. So, Glory Jones, Glory, don't you in college? You ain't got no homework to do? How you be everywhere? Anyway, I thought long about this and said no, although it really hurts me to. If Warren's his VP, it means that the rest of his administration could have bad actors as well. Plus, Bernie ain't great at picking people around him. I love the Burn Man, but I don't want to risk the movement for a few people. I doubt it happened though after the recent stuff, and Never Warren could I could honestly be swayed though, since Burn Man still got Nina and Bree with him either way. Both of those points are true. And Glory, your first tweet is such a fantastically well thought out one. It's almost as if you watch this amazing show that I like called Mikasa Sukasa, and you think a little bit deeper than the surface level. Man, I might go. Glory, what's your podcast? I might go check that out. Shout out to Glory. She's in the chat in case y'all want to say hi to her. This is interesting. Cat B said he won't. So the question I like to also pose to you all while we're scrolling through some of these: why will he not? He wouldn't. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he pick her? Now I know you're gonna think of the obvious. Say, well, no, she stabbed him in the back. So I want you to think again. Why wouldn't he pick her? Macaulay for Congress. Yes, I'd be willing to put my personal feelings aside and support Bernie's decision for the greater good. Would I rather he pick Nina or Tulsi? Hell to the yes, but with 4 to 11 years left to deal with the climate crisis and 45,000 people dying for lack of health care, gotta look at the bigger picture. And Macaulay's a very well thought out human being too. He's running for Congress, so if you're up there in the Massachusetts area, you want to volunteer for Macaulay, I definitely encourage you to go out there. Great guy. I interviewed him here. He's just a fantastic guy. He says, I was willing to put my personal feelings to the side and support Bernie's decision. But if Bernie's decision is the wrong decision, are we really offering him support? Or are we just believing that Bernie always knows the best answer, like when it comes to his interpersonal relationships and the people he puts around him? That's borderline cult of personality and not acknowledging reality. There's a reason that people put advisors around them to help them maybe get over their biases or their shortcomings when it comes to the perception of what's best for them as a candidate and best for the movement, in our case, overall. So yeah, I applaud you because I know that he's a very, very unselfish person. That's why I endorsed him for Congress. But at the same time, supporting Bernie's decision and just allowing Bernie to do what he wants and saying, hey, I trust you to do everything by yourself, I'm not sure if that's necessarily supporting Bernie's decision. So that's another question that I would have to ask you. This is another person who says he's not going to. And once again, I'll ask you all, is he not going to? Is that a guarantee? And why do we think it's a guarantee? Seriously, after all this, hell to the no. She would most likely make sure he is suicided. I don't know about all that, but I do know that there is a history of great presidents being assassinated and or dying right around the most pivotal point in America's political history. Like FDR died right before, we're gonna talk about that, right at the end of World War II, and things could have been a lot different. Obviously JFK, Abraham Lincoln could have did a lot more with his presidency after the Civil War was over, but you know, the VP is not we cannot trivialize that position at all. All this is a Tulsi supporter, right? All this lukewarm acceptance of Warren is absolutely disgusting. Would not accomplish the greater good you think it would. Enabling politicians like Warren tells me that this movement is still uninformed of legislative and executive abilities. Level up. Not only is that true, but this is a voter that Bernie would need, and it can't be ignored. Cannot be. I know people want to be like, stupid. That's stupid. You can't ignore it. It's not my job to tell James that's stupid. It's my job to convince him that my decision is the right decision, and I'm going to make decisions in the future that benefit James. That's how it goes. Okay. D-Rod, I trust Bernie, bro. I do think he has some Doctor Strange foresight abilities that I simply do not have. Yeah, when it comes to politics, he's demonstrated that. But he didn't predict that after he endorsed Elizabeth Warren in 2015, that she would turn around, allow election rigging, and then endorse Hillary Clinton and then run against him. That's not Doctor Strange foresight. Look at the movement he built on his instinct alone. If he chooses Warren, that's beyond what I know or understand, and I'll vote for Bernie. See, in my opinion, that's making a deity out of Bernie, and he is not that. He is a human being just like you or I. He's a flawed human being just like you or I. So this is not, that's the opposite of Bernie's slogan, not me, us. Right? Is that for my Bernie supporters, is that a pretty accurate analysis of that statement? I don't think that that's healthy for the movement. Would you take GNN's offer to meet with him in Fayetteville? In Fayetteville, North Carolina? Of course. But he should not want to meet with me in Fayetteville. For a lot of reasons. But Ryan Beeler, still do it because it's still Bernie. But I bet there's a lot of people that feel like this, and that's kind of scary. Once again, I don't trivialize assassinations. Assassinations happen. Assassinations of great men happen, specifically. And the greatest of men always have to be wary of that. If Martin Luther King had to be wary of it, if Abraham Lincoln had to be wary of it, JFK had to be wary of it, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, whatever the hell he did wrong. If great people in the past have always had to worry about it, Bernie Sanders should not be any different. We don't want to wish it upon him, of course. We don't want to speak it into existence, of course. But prepared, always. Great men always have to worry about that. And even if he wasn't running for office, even if he was trying to help somebody else with his movement getting to power, he would still need to worry about it. Tulsi is a great woman. She needs to worry about it, and she's 37, 38 years old. So, Rachel Rodriguez says, stop baiting people by asking stupid questions to add fuel to the injustice done to Bernie Sanders. That's a super weird word. I would not take your bait. You want to know who I want to pick Bernie as VP? There you go. What didn't she? I mean, that's kind of taking the bait. I mean, if there was bait to be laid, you kind of ate it all up. You still told me who you would want. Oh man, that's hilarious. But I don't know, how is this a stupid question? It's interesting that some people would think that this is a stupid question, and that demonstrates to me generally they've not been paying attention. If they think that this is, with 60% of people saying yes and 40% of people saying no, you think that that's a stupid question? Seems like most people are just concerned with defending Bernie at all costs rather than actually looking at what it takes to win and saying, okay, maybe we gotta let Bernie know something. If he did that, how could I trust that he won't cave to politics once in office? So for me, it's a big, gigantic no. This is a Birdie Crash Twitter right here. No, I would write in Tulsi. I love Bernie. I love his life of activism. But if he were to choose Liz, he would be stabbing himself in the foot. It would be as bad as having Hillary there. No, I doubt he will. He said VP would be a younger woman of color, and I trust that. But still, call me cynical, But I would say Bernie needs someone. Oh, he needs someone hated even more by the establishment than himself as VP, i.e. Tulsi, assassination insurance. That's damn. Oh shit, I didn't even think about something like that. That's actually pretty crazy. Cause it's not just that fear, but also the realization that we all have to kind of accept is that Bernie is a mortal human being who is 78 years old, right? He's mortal. He's healthy as hell right now. The presidential that office does not age anybody well. Anybody. But you know, Trump, you can't see it because he'd be spraying himself and shit. But you know, but he might not even have to go nowhere. Maybe he just gets tired. Maybe third year, he starts wanting to kind of relinquish the duties a little bit, focus on maybe one or two very, very important tasks that he's trying to get achieved, and then the person who is in line, that's who he would relinquish most of the duties to. So this is realization. Maybe picking somebody who's scared the shit out of the establishment will stop any undue harm from coming to Bernie Sanders. Because great men always have to worry about harm, bro. I don't care what anybody says. They can say it's insensitive. You say what it is, but it is what it is. So, look who liked this tweet and the picture. That's the ticket I'm voting for. I'm assuming it's Tulsi who liked it. Tulsi and Bernie. It really bugs the hell out of me. Excuse me, it really bugs the hell out of a lot of us that Bernie has distanced himself from Tulsi as much as possible, at the same time embracing the likes of Warren. If Warren, at least publicly, I should caveat, if Warren or some other neoliberal is the VP, nope. It is especially important that we have a strong VP in Bernie's case. To be honest, he may pick, he may need to pick her to go over the top with the delegates. See, some people kind of see why Bernie would think about it. All right. So I'm not gonna go through all of these. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but I just want to give you a general gist of what everybody is saying. The consistent themes we have seen are Bernie is Bernie, and Bernie is better than Trump, and I trust everything Bernie says does. If Bernie says jump, I'll say into what hole. That's one theme. Okay. Then you have I wouldn't vote for Bernie because Warren stabbed him in the back and I don't trust Warren. And then you have the theme of why would he do something like that? That's a stupid question. This is a stupid. So we're going to work backwards from there. Okay. Why would we even ask this question? Why would Niko put a question on Twitter that is clearly, that's a divisive question at this point? That's a divisive. It is by definition, when 60% of people like something and 40% of people don't like something, that's divisive. And I get it. Because I wanted to actually get an accurate assessment without people feeling like they were being judged for their answers. And this is one of the best ways to do it. I have a platform. I have a diverse platform. And I feel like sometimes you have to do some things with it to try and get answers for strategy going forward. And that's what I like to do with my platform. I wanted people to tell how they feel without being judged. Because right now in the Bernie Sanders movement, which is, once again, I'm still part of that movement, it's very toxic to anyone who says anything that could potentially mean anything other than Bernie Sanders being president. That's just like, oh my God, how could you say that? I'll kill you. Like, that's how people are. I had to delete tweets from that thread because they were vote shaming. If anyone says no, they're idiots. Yeah, that's going to get them. That's going to get them to come say yes, right? But also, more importantly, that's going to deny us the accurate data and deny Bernie a chance to see reality rather than the reality that is being put in front of him potentially. We don't know what reality is being put in front of him, but oftentimes, like most people who are really famous with blue checks, they are paying attention to what other blue checks are saying. Oh, these blue checks seem to be cool with Warren. These blue checks want us to make up. Okay. This is the poll that is telling you Bernie fuck those blue checks. Don't listen to those blue checks. Some blue checks don't know what the hell they talking about. Do not you can make up with her, behind the scenes, I guess, to be cordial and professional with her, because you're still gonna have to work with her in Congress. But do not put her on this ticket. Some people would ask, right? So I said we're gonna work backwards from the third theme. The third theme is that why would Bernie do something like that? How could you ask such a dumb question? What do you mean? Because the same people who were saying that last week were saying that Warren was a viable VP. Oh, but many were taking it even further than that, right? They were taking it even further, saying that Warren would be the ideal VP pick. David Sirota on his campaign. I like David, but he was wrong. He said Warren would be the ideal VP pick. AOC said that Warren would be the ideal VP pick. Rokana said that Warren would be the ideal VP pick. A lot of those burners, no matter what, she would be a good compromise pick. Okay, so my question to you would be, so what's the limitation on betrayal? Do we have like a number of times you can betray somebody before they disqualified? Because Bernie, if he would accept this, it wouldn't be a break of pattern. I don't think that people have realized that. Okay, what did we learn this weekend? For those of you who maybe, may have not known. We learned that Bernie Sanders not only asked Elizabeth to run, but led a whole movement to Elizabeth Warren to run in 2015. He endorsed her before she had even announced anything. That's how much he believed in her. So with that good faith, she returns it by not endorsing Bernie, but instead riding his wave, getting a lot of support from his base, and turning that support and endorsing Hillary Clinton, and then later admitting that she knew the election was rigged. So you knew it was rigged, and instead of speaking out about it like Tulsi Gabbard did, you did what? You went with the person who was doing the rigging because you thought you were going to get a VP pick. You thought you were going to get that nod. Okay. Wouldn't we call that stab? And this, so you endorsed this woman because Hillary and Warren had not gotten along well before that. Just outside in the public, they're not the same politician. Like, they're antithetical to each other as far as what the public perceived in the Democratic Party. But she wanted that VP pick, and Hillary used it to her advantage. Bernie was her friend. Warren had never called Hillary her friend. Not in 2016 anyway, maybe after they endorsed, because that's what they do. But Bernie and Warren had always been friends. They supposedly had worked together on something. And used that. So, yeah, at the most pivotal time in history, Bernie said, I believe a woman can win. Go do it. Please do it. I'm begging you, do it. She said, no. But you know what, Bernie? I think Hillary can win. I'm going to go help her out. That cool? Okay. So she stabbed him in the back already, and Bernie kept her around. Even more so to a degree, publicly, once again, caveat, then he's kept Tulsi around, if you will, during this election. In other words, he's not spoken out for her as fervently and as regularly as he has to defend Elizabeth Warren, nor did he call out Warren for co-opting his message and co-opting his plan and going after his voters. And whenever they talk about Medicare for all, she didn't say, well, I wouldn't ask her to defer to Bernie, but I would at least ask her to give credit where credit is due. But she didn't do that. She used it for herself. Then she broke a non-aggression pact that she asked Bernie to sign. So people saying, well, what? Why would Bernie do that? That's stupid. So y'all was okay with it when she betrayed him the first time, but not the second time? Y'all, she was viable for the... See, some of y'all are weird, man. I can't hang... I like to learn from other people's mistakes. If I see somebody else make a mistake, I ain't gonna make the same damn mistake, and I'm probably not gonna hang out with them all too much if they make the same dire mistake twice, because that probably means they might be a little self-destructive. One betrayal should have been enough. I mean, given all the other history we have on Elizabeth Warren, right? It isn't just like in a vacuum. So yeah, she's still a potential pick. Yeah, I know y'all emotions are high and you're thinking about what you would do in that situation, not what Bernie would do in that situation. Bernie, once again, we've already said this, I'm telling you, Elizabeth Warren has him, he's an emotional hostage. He cares deeply about his movement. He wants to see his movement successful, and he wants to be in a position to do what he wants to do. He wants to be in a position to do the most. He believes that position is president of the United States. When you are desperate, and he is desperate, he should be, we all should be. When you're desperate, you make compromises. You have the blinders on. You have tunnel vision. And you don't always make the best decision. Especially when they can cheat you at any time. And hold those delegates over your face to get the candidate that they want as VP. So yeah, it's not a dumb question. It's a question that absolutely needed to be asked because this is the reality that we're dealing with. We have to acknowledge Bernie's past. We have to acknowledge that he's been betrayed by Warren already. And most of you people, most of y'all were okay with Warren, which is a whole different issue. But most of you all were okay until she broke your hearts for the second time. See, once again, I learned. I don't have to, I gotta make the same mistake twice, dog. I'm telling you, I'm a quick learner. I put my hand on the burner. I'm like, oh, that shit was hot. I'm not touching that again. But Niko, there's some kimbap on the stove. Y'all know what kimbap is. I love kimbap. I'm trying to figure. This is spaghetti. I love spaghetti. This is spaghetti on the stove, Niko. All you gotta do is touch that burner. If you touch that burner, you get the spaghetti. I promise you will. You sure? I don't see how those things add up. If I touch this, why don't you just put the spaghetti on the burner? It's already ready and done. Just put it on the burner. Just touch the burner. I'm not gonna touch that damn burner because you told me that last time. Touch the burner and I burn myself. So progressive. Y'all were okay with it. Y'all were okay with him picking her as VP. Not everybody in his campaign was, but most of them were, except for 2. So that's why we asked that question. Secondly, what does it say about Bernie Sanders? Or no, matter of fact, we're not gonna do that part first. We're gonna say, why did everybody say yes? The people that said yes. And believe it or not, there were actually some really good answers as to why people said yes. There really were. And I mean that genuinely. Some people were like, I can't make decisions based off of selfish motivations or whatever type of disdain they have towards Elizabeth Warren. They feel like the movement comes first. And so the question I would pose to them is, I'm glad you feel that way. And if you're going to make any decision in your life, if you feel like it's for the greater good and for people outside of yourself, then that's always an admirable reason to make any decision. However, I'm a strategist, and just because it's admirable doesn't mean it's the right decision. Because here's why. If you care about the movement, where are you getting this idea that Bernie Sanders picking Elizabeth Warren is the best thing for the movement? Yeah, you would vote for him. And that sounds great, except for what happens when the rest of the real world is like, how could Bernie pick someone who stabbed him in the back twice? Maybe Bernie should poll us donors who we want as VP. Yeah, that would actually be good to poll the donors, but he needs more than his donors to win. So there's that. He needs to win over Trump voters. He needs to convince people he's going to rule from a place of not peace, strength through peace. There you go. But there's still that whole strength part. You can't be a pushover as president and commander in chief. So if you pick someone who stabbed you in the back not once, not but twice, and then did it in such a calculating and conniving way, right? The first time, yeah, she stabbed him in the back. But the second time, she stabbed him in the back and then twisted the knife in public for all to see. And then had the nerve to pretend as if Bernie was the one who had a misunderstanding, and she was going to give him another opportunity to clarify himself. Really, bro? Come on. That wasn't the case. If you pick Warren, you think you're doing, oh, well, I get my delegate, so I get the nomination. I would pose this question. What good is the nomination? What good is the nomination if you can't win the general? And that's basically what a lot of people feel. But for those of you who are saying, I trust Bernie's decisions, that's not the way to go about it. Guess what? I trust Tulsi's decision. If Tulsi makes a bad decision, I'm going to let Tulsi know because I want Tulsi to win. And Bernie has already shown, Bernie has already shown that if enough people say something to him, he will move on an issue. But it has to be like a massive wave because he's not on Twitter all the time. It's not how he does business, okay? But his surrogates are. Nina is. Brianna Joy Gray is. Ro Khanna is. David Sirota is. AOC is. It is our job to convince those people who are looking for their next career move, which is a lot of those people that I said except for Nina and Bree. It's our job to convince them so overwhelmingly. No matter how much they try and push Warren, hell no. And what some people will do, they'll throw out the Bernie. Well, Bernie's better than Trump, but it isn't just Bernie versus Trump. It's Bernie and every decision he's ever made versus Trump, and Trump with every decision he's going to claim he's made. Bernie, at this very moment, Trump has the advantage until you pick your VP. Because you're the only candidate in the race at this point whose VP decision probably out because of your age, because of your past over the last 3 years of you being mostly a Democrat rather than an independent sometime. With Russiagate, with making up with Warren after she stabbed you in the back, then attaching yourself to someone who pretended to be Native American. Let's just call it what it is. Glory Jones, thanks for the super chat, Glory. I'm an international relations major, so MCSE helps more than anything. You guys and WikiLeaks were my main sources for a Syria policy paper. Oh, that's dope. Professor House. I like the sound of that. Copernicus Thinker, thank you very much for the super chat. GOP Indies hate Warren, but like and tolerate Tulsi. So Bernie should choose her and for 1,000 other reasons to help pull them in. Yeah, I agree with that. But once again, that's up to us to let Bernie know. It's like we got to draw the line in the sand. I said, I'm down with Tulsi. I'm down with Tulsi or Nina, but I know that Nina doesn't want to be part of the Oval Office drama. But my only compromise pick would be Barbara Lee because she has an advantage that Tulsi and Bernie both don't have, which is she's never made a mistake when it comes to issues of war, ever. Even with her endorsement of Kamala, that was like the worst thing she's ever done. In all seriousness, that's why it was so damn heartbreaking. We were like, "What the, Barbara? What are you doing?" But that would be my compromise pick. But Tulsi would guarantee Bernie Sanders wins all 50 states. I guarantee you that. That I can assure you of. Except for Alabama, maybe. But even then, I still think that Tulsi could win him Alabama, in all seriousness. And then there comes the issue of, say, for whatever reason, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie could win. Maybe Trump just does something so damn stupid, like assassinate another general, that they manage to beat Trump. Or excuse me, yeah, that Warren and Bernie managed to beat Trump. Okay, then what? See, Bernie had already shown the establishment that he's more than willing to make compromises to get what he wants. They use the movement against him. You'll promise all these people all these great things. You better put our people in, or we're not letting you get shit. Copernicus Thinker, how about Nina Turner for Bernie chief of staff? Actually, that is what I've always said Nina's best position would be, is Bernie's chief of staff. Absolutely. I've always said that. Nina is great at putting people around her. She knows exactly who to keep around her and to keep around Bernie. And she makes it known who she, even when Bernie picks somebody, she always gonna love Bernie. But if Bernie he be around somebody that Bernie, Nina, she not good at hiding her emotions. Okay. Natalie Chavez, imagine, Niko, what Trump would say about Bernie if he picks VP. I know. He would call him weak and sharp on that. Oh, I'm assuming he means shit on that. But yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. Trump would eat Bernie alive for picking Warren. She faked being. I don't know how. I know some people in the progressive movement have put the blinders on. They put the blinders on. Okay, when it comes to Elizabeth Warren and what she did to the indigenous people, okay, go ahead. It's easy to put the blinders on whenever the entire leftist media pretends like it never happened. Because they like to gloss over it. Like, oh God. It's like literally, I said it yesterday on Twitter. I said, could you imagine if Rachel Dolezal ran for president and had a little legitimate chance of winning after being caught faking being black? Like, but we have it happening right now. It's in front of us. And people are like, well, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, yeah, it's not that big of a deal until Trump tweets about it 2 or 3 times during the election and talks about, no, it won't be 2 or 3 times. It'll be every single day. It'll be every single day. Every single day, what Elizabeth Warren did will be brought up. Every single day, what Elizabeth Warren did to stab Bernie in the back will be brought up. Every single day, Warren will be attacked and Bernie will look weak for including her. Any VP options besides Jayapal or Tammy Baldwin? Yeah, I said with my, I'm not sure, I wouldn't pick Jayapal. Jayapal and Bernie don't get along well. Jayapal doesn't really like Bernie, personally. It's some weird thing, but she just does not like him. She likes all of his policies, but doesn't like him. It's the same thing with Ayanna Pressley. And it is what it is. I'm not going to shame her for not liking somebody. It is what it is. She can like his politics, as she said, but there's just some weird friction between them. And it's probably some identity nonsense. But anyway, if Bernie and Warren do win, then what happens next? What does Bernie's administration look like if you were willing to put in Warren? And some people might say that's not true. Y'all keep forgetting the campaign that Barack Obama ran on. And prior to Barack Obama being in office, Barack used to keep great people around him. Believe it or not. He wasn't perfect by any means, but neither is Bernie. But Barack, they're like, why would Bernie pick Warren? Why would he do something like that to himself? I don't know. Why would Barack Obama pick the woman who ran multiple racist ads against him as Secretary of State and put her in charge of his entire foreign policy? Excuse me. No, he picked the secretary. He picked the woman who ran racist ads against him as Secretary of State, and then the segregationist as Vice President. I don't know. Maybe sometimes fucking nominees just do some stupid shit sometimes. Maybe we should just accept that. Sometimes they do things that are antithetical with the person they have shown themselves to be in the past. Maybe can we just accept that? No, you can't accept that? Okay, let's look at FDR real quick. Because that's what people also have failed to realize. That's why I hate when people trivialize this vice presidential conversation. Like it's not important. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in history that the VP pick, in retrospect, was the most important decision. And the establishment knew it. The establishment had already known it was the most important decision. And they made sure that they handled business while we were over here pretending like the VP didn't do anything. Okay? Let's look, since we want to talk about, presidents who could have and were to a degree somewhat good, and then they made a really bad administrative decision. Let's look at FDR. Now, I'm not talking about the FDR with Henry Wallace, but I am talking about the FDR with Harry S. Truman. Now, some of you might recognize that name, Harry S. Truman. So I gotta give you a little history lesson. See, FDR was the de facto head of the Democratic Party. as is every Democratic president. That's just the rules that's the way they made the rules. And he won the nomination handily, and he was expecting full and well that Henry Wallace would have been his vice president for the past 3 administrations, I want to say, all throughout World War II and before that. All throughout World War II and before. FDR was sick, as you all know. He was not going to make it through his last presidency. We all know. Henry Wallace was, he was a socialist. He was a civil rights activist at his core. He was calling out Great Britain in the middle of the war while we were allied with them for not relinquishing their colonies and allowing the colonies to be independent. He was calling out the apartheid in South Africa. He was calling out everything. Every day he was fighting against segregation in the United States. If Henry Wallace was allowed to be vice president, like he had been for the last 3 administrations, like FDR had wanted, then we have an entirely different conversation about where we are in this world, don't we? But that's not what happened, is it? See, FDR, some would call it in his indifference, and others would say with ignorance, right? Maybe he was just tired. Maybe he was tired of fighting because he was on the way out the door now. Now that we know, right? We can say that he was on the way out. He allowed the Democratic primary to be rigged at the convention, where Henry Wallace won the nomination resoundingly. However, they had the chairman under the corporate control. Oh yeah. And that's all you need in the Democratic Party, right? You just need that one leadership position. That's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So even though everyone said they wanted Henry Wallace, he moved to adjourn the meeting. And when he said move to adjourn, everybody's like, no. He said, meeting adjourned. They rigged the entire vice presidential nomination overnight. Came back, and the guy who got the least amount of votes, Harry S. Truman, was now FDR's vice presidential pick. Of course, they go on to win because FDR was incredibly popular, and they used that to their advantage. They knew that there was nothing that any vice president can do at that time to stop FDR from winning, but they also knew that FDR was on the way out. And if Henry Wallace is the president, segregation is done. There in the 40s, segregation is done. There is no allying with countries who participate in racist imperialism and colonialism. That shit was done. There is no Israel-Palestine conflict, only Palestine. If Henry Wallace, you get where I'm going with this. This is the vice presidential pick we're talking about. But no, that's not what happened instead. Because everybody was so happy about FDR. It was so excited about it. It doesn't matter. He's a president. He's a president. FDR is just amazing. No other decision matters. His polio finally got him. And we were left with one Harry S. Truman. That decision, that vice presidential decision, and FDR's indecision and inaction and not stepping up as a leader of the Democratic Party and shutting that shit down and bringing Henry Wallace back, guess what that meant? That led to 2 nuclear bombs permanently scarring Japan. And, of course, after that, the nuclear arms race, nuclear proliferation, where almost every superpower and some people in the superpower umbrella all have nuclear weapons now. Okay? That led to Japan just being done. They just were not, I'm glad they recovered and bounced back, but they were, once again, they were scarred. Literally and emotionally. It took them a while to bounce back. All right? That led to the Cold War because Truman kept some shifty people around him that were Republicans, that were the neo-conservative Republicans from that from the Wartime Economy Council. Not George Bush. want to say it was Charles Prescott Bush was one of the originals on that one, in case you're curious. That his advisor, Truman's advisor, lied to Truman and used the ego against him whenever Stalin was like, hey, we're still maintaining the Yalta Agreement where I get these countries from Eastern Europe because we took the most casualties in World War II. Remember, y'all didn't show up to do a shit until way later when we took the brunt of the bruises. They used Truman's ego against him because Truman was a very fragile human being. And they said, no, Stalin's lying to you. He's trying to test your gangster and see if you'll bite. He's trying to take advantage of you. That was a lie. And guess what? Winston Churchill was also a racist imperialist that gets way too much love in Western scholarship. He never told Truman the truth because he didn't want Stalin and Russia to get the rewards of taking the brunt of the bruises in World War II. How fucked is that? So guess what happens then? The Cold War kicks off in proxy wars that you all have become familiar with. That we always say there was never a shot fired in World War II, right? Or excuse me, in the Cold War. Yeah, it's interesting. What do you call Vietnam? What was that about again? Interesting. What was the war in South Africa about at its core? What was the North and South Korea situation about? The Korean War. What was that about? What was the war in Nicaragua? What were we invading all those countries in the Caribbean? Why does Trinidad have a base? Why were we in Panama? Why? I mean, are we really gonna go through this? You really think there wasn't a shot fired in the Cold War? That war, that Cold War that Truman kicked off, lasted from the 40s to the 90s, people. To the 90s. So, what did he do next? Oh, Truman capped it off with something amazing. It's the vice presidential pick, man. It don't matter, right? FDR is amazing. So everything that came next was fine because FDR was amazing. In 1947, Truman created this amazing agency, right? This agency is touted around the world as just one of the most altruistic and magnanimous agencies in history. That agency was called the CIA. You know, the intel agency that's known for committing some of the worst crimes against humanity, both foreign and domestically. The same Central Intelligence Agency where the president got a request for something to be disclosed to the public. Like he got to request it from them and then he got to sign it. But they got to go through a process for us to know the truth about shit that they did on American soil. You know, like when we found out that the Lusitania was never actually bombed by Germany and we said that it was and that it was a passenger ship. Oh, excuse me, no, it was bombed. We said that it was a passenger ship with innocent American lives on it. Nope, it wasn't even American. The ship wasn't even American. It was a British ship and it was a naval supply ship with British soldiers on it. In other words, it had nothing to do with America. And that was one of the catalysts we used to get us into World War I, which is a whole different discussion. That Central Intelligence Agency, the one that still won't let us know what happened to JFK, that Central Intelligence Agency, the same Central Intelligence Agency that walked up to JFK, sat him at a table and said, hey man, we're going to tell you something, okay? And you just let us know if you cool with it, okay? All right. And I really cannot stress enough how much I need you to just think about this from both sides. So we want to attack American civilians so that Americans are okay with going to war. Is that cool with you? Can we do that? Operation Norwood. Google it. That's that Central Intelligence Agency. One, I could go down a list of vice presidential, like I can go down a list of VP blunders, but that was the blunder of all blunder. Okay? I cannot stress that enough. We allow, after 3 terms with Henry Wallace, we allowed the 4th term to be stolen from us. And people like you and me were saying, well, as long as it's FDR, it's all good. That indifference by the American people, the indifference and the inaction by FDR, led to a Cold War that lasted for 40 years, roughly. The colonization, by the way, of multiple nations. Oh, the overthrow of Mossadegh. I forgot about that. My bad. I apologize. It led to 2 nuclear bombs being dropped and nuclear proliferation reigning supreme. And it led to the creation of the Central Intelligence Agency. Still think that the VP pick don't matter? Are we going to pretend like the VP pick don't mean anything? Once again, it isn't just but a VP pick at the most pivotal time in history when they are trying, because we're at a crossroads where they're going to try and take back control because they don't feel like they have any right now. That was what Truman represented. That is what Warren represents. Biden is not that. Biden has no chance. Warren, they can convince us has a chance, and they can convince some, I don't want to say weak-minded, because that's a really rude way to say that, but more malleable. They can convince some of Bernie's more malleable supporters that, and scare the hell out of them, hey, she has a chance of winning and you need her delegates. And we can do a good enough job convincing that she's actually competition for Bernie that you will okay Elizabeth Warren as the VP nominee. So I don't believe that he could win with Warren, but if he does win, are we sure that's best for the country? Bernie is one man. Warren is an entire establishment. Just something to think about. Let me get through these super chats really quick before we go. I did see them. I just wanted to get to that story without getting distracted, because y'all be distracting me, but distracted me in a good way. McCracy, did you see Nick Cannon Eminem diss songs? The new ones? I thought that beef was like, oh, I heard that Eminem dropped a new album today though. Copernicus Thinker, Niko, you're truly hitting it way out of the ballpark regarding reporting on Warren lately, especially emotional abuse on Bernie, which some pundits overlook. Shout out to Flo too. Fiorella. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on Warren reporting. Yeah, Fiorella's killing it, and I appreciate that. I really do. Yeah, I'm not letting that die. I'm not letting that die because I know too much history. That's the problem. People are okay with Elizabeth Warren. They don't know their history. I wouldn't consider myself a historian, but I would consider myself a political historian. I look at history through politics because it helps you understand, well, for one, most history that we are taught is lies. Basically everything except for the names and sometimes the dates. Like when my kids go to school, when I have them, I'm like, look, you're going to school. Just think of it like you're learning everything, like you're learning what's wrong. And when you come home, your job will be to figure out what is the actual story through research. And I'm not going to tell them what the right answer is. I'm going to point them in the right direction and say, okay, you figure out what the truth is. But your tests, just think of it as now you know for a fact what is not true. So with that being said, I do believe that Bernie is not putting Warren his top 2 picks anymore. I do believe that. I do believe at one point she was still a viable pick, unfortunately. But because of everything we saw and Warren still being considered a viable pick after stabbing Bernie in the back, after throwing the indigenous community under the bus, after the warmongering votes, after co-opting his message, all that, and she was still a pick. All that, he still signed a non-aggression pact. Clapping for Donald Trump. After all that, she was still viable before. So yeah, she might not be number 2, but she could still be number 4, if you catch my drift. And that's why this poll is important. To give people a way to express genuinely how they feel without being judged for it. Because that 60 and that 40%, it was going to happen, whether or not, the people were telling you the truth or not. Like if you were pressuring them to say one thing through phone banking, if you were pressuring them to say one thing through polling, through like one of these traditional polling companies, if you were pressuring them to say one thing, we saw in 2016, Hillary Clinton had a 99% chance of winning, bro, through polling. But I wish I could remember what the term is, but basically people don't like feeling judged for their decisions. So they'll tell you what they think you want to hear based off of your tonality and things like that. Or what the tone of the political discourse at the time. So this gave people a chance to be honest. And these are Bernie supporters, Toast supporters, Yang supporters, and Trump supporters. And Bernie needs more than his own supporters to win in 2016. And not only just to win, right? He has to win, and he has to win with a mandate to go in and change everything right when he gets there. And you need all 40% of those people, every single one of them, if you want to win in 2020. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Copernicus, thanks for the super chat. Hell, James won't let her hubby pick Warren. You know what? I believe that. I believe that Jane is Bernie's sidekick shield. Like she guards Bernie's energy. When people are trying to go like just suck too much away from Bernie, like there are some people in Bernie's campaign I'm sure Jane does not like. I'm sure of it. But Bernie is a Libra and he's hard-headed. It's one of the things that makes him great at what he does. He's hard-headed, he don't always listen to his wife. What husband does. Okay, let's be real with ourselves, men. Sometimes we gotta learn the hard way. All right, okay. So but Jane was one of the ones who responded back to us when we called out the rigging in 2016. And she was like, appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know. Keep reporting back. Let us know what you find. So Jane does not play about stuff like that. If I could put a bet on it, I would bet that Jane doesn't like Ro Khanna. If I could put a bet on it, I would bet. Oh, I could bet. I would bet any amount of money that she don't like Warren. I would bet any amount of money. Ain't no wife about to like Warren after what she did in 2016. Ain't no good wife about to like Warren. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care. If Nina don't like Warren, you think Jane like Warren? You know how close Jane and Nina are? Psh, okay, good look. Good look. All right, look, man. But that's true. Jane is one of his advisors, and that is an area where I believe Jane would make some pretty strong suggestions. But I will say this: here's what's interesting: the women from the originals, right? I wish Cornel West was his Secretary of Defense and Jill Stein Secretary of State. Cornel West literally knows nothing about the military. As much as I love Cornel West, I think he would be better suited for maybe any type of issues which will require understanding intersectionality of economic issues when it comes to race. Maybe the HUD department, like housing and development, things like that, but not Secretary of Defense. Jill Stein, Secretary of State? Actually, that's a pretty damn good. That's a good pick. That's not a bad pick at all. Jill's awesome. Jill's answer is always, we can have peace. And that's a damn good place to start. But when it comes to the women, the original, when it comes to Roseanne DeMauro, when it comes to Nina Turner, when it comes to Bree, even because Bree was one of the originals, although she wasn't on his campaign, she still had a huge platform, was constantly speaking for him. When it comes to the originals, they know what time it is. They're not settling for anybody but Tulsa. Bird on a tree told me. When it comes to the originals, not these new news, right? Isn't it funny? The ones who got popular off of riding Bernie's wave after 2016, all of them love Warren. Methinks we see a pattern. Methinks we see a pattern. The Janes, the Ninas, the Brees, also the ones who have never disparaged Jill Stein, not one single time, or attacked another party. In fact, asking for Bernie to start a new party at times. If you were at the People's Summit, you know what I'm talking about. At Bernie's People's Summit, they allowed the Green Party to come and promote. Our Revolution endorsed Green Party candidates. Nina. Thank you, Nina. Nina made that happen. But these new news, some of them I like, some of them I'm not crazy about. All of them are the ones saying that we got to get along with Elizabeth Warren. So who is this about? Is this about Bernie? Is it about the movement that he started? Or is it about your next job? Because you don't want to be put in a position where you have to make a principled decision where you can't hide behind Bernie's movement and you got to stand on your own 2 feet like Tulsi does every single goddamn day. You don't want to be in Tulsi's position where you got to fight and claw and scratch and be right every single time or be judged every single time. Y'all not strong enough because y'all not built like Tulsi. And that's why the Ninas and the Brees and the Joy and the James, that's why they respect Tulsi, because they were like her. They all came under fire together. Before you were celebrated for endorsing Bernie, you were hated for endorsing Bernie, especially if you were a woman, especially if you were a black woman, especially when you were the vice president of the damn DNC. When you get hated for endorsing Bernie Sanders, that's when they came along. So they know that if Tulsi is the VP, she wants to be VP for no other reason than to help Bernie Sanders and to help his movement, and vice versa. And if Tulsi endorsed Bernie, if things didn't work out for her and she endorsed Bernie, it'd be for no other. She wouldn't expect shit. You know that. I hope y'all do know that. Like, as much as it sucks to admit, she wouldn't expect to be VP if Tulsi endorsed Bernie. That's not what she wouldn't be doing it for that. She would be doing it because, well, I did it in 2016. I wasn't expecting to be VP. Why would I expect to be VP now? Nobody should feel entitled to anything. And it is what it is. I would expect her to be VP, but that's not how she is. And that's why the women that started this would rather have Tulsi. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into that live stream segment of Mika Says Sukasa. I hope y'all heeded the information I gave you. Can't ignore it. It's reality. Now we can use this information. Share this with Bernie's most prominent surrogates in hopes that it gets back to Bernie and say, look, bro, just based off of strategy alone, I don't care. You want to go you want to go be cordial with her? It's cool. Like, you're the bigger guy, and that is admirable in some ways. But like, we still got an election to win. You can be cordial and not be dumb, okay? We still trying to win an election. If you get the nomination, I want you to win, right? I wouldn't let Tulsi pick Elizabeth Warren, not without curling her crazy. Okay. And if she was doing something, I would tell her the same thing. We need to win. We have a rare opportunity in history, and the universe is setting us up for a fucking alley-oop 360 slam dunk. They're taking themselves out. Let's not take ourselves out, people. Okay? They're taking themselves out. Let's not take ourselves out. We have to keep building upon this momentum and taking advantage of their fuck-ups. All right? Thank you all so much. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you like that segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Of course, if YouTube is giving you trouble, as it always does, you can download the Rockfin app and follow us there. Also, if you want to continue to help our show grow, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon and donate as little as $1. Really, anything helps. Other than that, always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance.